Why is aiming so hard? It seems like such a simple concept. Point and shoot. Yet there's thousands of videos dedicated to the subject. Reddit posts and ads claiming this or that product will give you perfect aim trainers, mouse pads, a lighter mouse pad, different shape mouse, settings videos, how to get the best frames, warm up routine, the list goes on and on. We watch pro players like Shroud, Lyric, and Simple give almost robotic like performances when playing. Some people eventually just give up on the idea and start cheating. Why? Because it feels almost impossible to become that level of mastery. But why? Just hit the target.
Shoot the target.
You're crazy.
Before I get into the why, we have to start on my own aiming journey. I started out on PC when I was just 15 years old. I built my first PC and aiming was a concept I didn't even think about. I was just excited to get home from school and start playing with my friends. I eventually moved on to Xbox though, because at the time PC just wasn't as popular as console, and like today, it's still more expensive. As the years went on, I started to notice there was two different levels of players. Somewhat good players, and then the pro level players of aiming. It was wild to watch, a true spectacle. At the time I was playing Halo and a lot of Call of Duty. By most accounts I was pretty good. I was on a team that had a record of 99-6 and was on the top page of the Game Battles website. Top team in the whole world on Xbox. But I wanted more. Long by was the days I'd reminisced of holding a mouse in my hand, but it had been years. I was broke at the time, so I decided instead of buying a high-end PC, I would just buy an adapter for the Xbox that would let me use the mouse and keyboard. At the time, this was frowned upon and considered by most to be cheating. Keep in mind, at the time, crossplay wasn't around. I quickly learned I didn't know how to truly aim. I struggled, but kept my name around when it came to being a good player. I felt limited by the console, and I wanted to be back on PC where I felt I belonged. So eventually I did. I quickly figured out everything I had learned on Xbox, I had to unlearn. Because consoles are meant for controllers, not mouse and keyboard. No duh, right? This is because there are different curves on console from PC, and this was an important step in the journey I was about to take for learning about curves in video games for the first time. If you're a console player, you are no doubt playing on this type of curve. For a lot of popular shooters known as a power curve. If you're playing on PC, you're playing on a linear curve like this. The power curve means you have more control and less sensitivity in the middle of your screen. And when you turn around, the curve ramps up and figures out that you're trying to turn quickly and adds acceleration to the curve so you get to where you're trying to aim or turn to quickly. By default, most games on consoles are like this, though these days with everyone trying to get their settings 100% effective, a lot of games do offer to change this, such as in Apex and the advanced look controls option. The second curve is a linear curve, and if you're on PC, this is what 99.9% of players are playing on. This means that what you set your sensitivity to, your mouse will move to that spot every time. A 1-to-1 ratio. The same speed and movement every time. But Phantasm, I hear you say, you world-renowned ladies' man with your aim. What does this have to do with aiming? Well, everything. Stick around to find out. Since I was coming from PC, I decided to try and fix my aiming problem by simply just putting the same curve and acceleration that I had on my Xbox on my PC. I quickly found out this wasn't popular. The in-game options only gave you the choice to turn on or off mouse acceleration, and not change the curve or the control, how much or how fast the acceleration went. Nearly 99% of all pros did not use this option. I could only find one pro Counter-Strike player who used this option in-game. This type of acceleration means that when you turn quickly, you could only estimate how far your crosshair would go based on the speed at which your hand moved. This seemed bad. Though I did use the in-game option and with some success. The 1-to-1 ratio seemed to be king though, and on all the forums and videos I watched, everyone kept using the same phrase, don't use acceleration, you need to build muscle memory. This was what pro players use to remain good at multiple games at once, to find a sense that works for them, and they roughly have that same sensitivity on all games. This is how muscle memory works. Your body, arm, wrists get used to moving the mouse a certain amount of space to get to a certain point in the game. This seemed logical. I knew that from my football days and working out, I had already learned this concept, and it made a lot of sense. Your muscles remember very well. Your body is amazing and quickly picks up where it left off, even years after not performing the motion after. A few tries, your muscles will remember right away and start working. This is where I ran into another problem. What sensitivity do I use if I'm supposed to have it forever? Before I could answer that question, I had another question. Was I a wrist aimer or an arm aimer? Or was I both? If you're on controller, when it comes to this segment, arm aiming versus wrist aiming can be broken down to how much sensitivity you use. Most pro players use a low in-game sense, like 3-4, as opposed to the average player who uses high, often as high as 10-10 in game. If you're on controller, this is the only difference when it comes to type of aim on console. However, if you're on PC, this is where it gets complicated. Clearly, higher sensitivity has a big appeal, as you can turn around effortlessly and your movement will be fast. This is why so many people play on a high sense, whether it be on controller or mouse and keyboard. So if playing on a higher sense is so appealing, why do most pros not do it? The answer is actually simple. Most people don't have the dexterity to have a high sense and be able to consistently have good aim. Unless you're in the 1% that have such a high dexterity that you have complete control at that level, you have to lower your sensitivity. This is where I ran into another problem. One of the most accurate players I've ever seen in FPS shooters is Huskerrs, a former pro Apex player who plays Warzone now. His aim is incredible, and he utilizes the arm aiming method. You can see him here using his whole enormous mousepad that covers his entire desk. I thought to myself, this is the way. I'll just buy a new mousepad, lower my sensitivity to his, and over time, I'll be just as good as him. The problem is, when you use your whole arm to aim fatigue quickly sets in. I don't know how Huskerrs does it, but even after months of playing on a low sense and using my whole arm to aim, my shoulder and arm was dead in just a couple of hours. So of course, I decided to try the other way, using mostly my wrist to aim, like Shroud, the most well-known aimer in the entire world. Surely I could master his style of aim, right? Well, no. He's Shroud for a reason. Personally, I believe he's in the 1% of dexterity when it comes to control, and like most people, I am not. So what now? I think this is when a lot of people just give up. If you have a similar journey to mine, or you go on playing on a high sensitivity and just live in the average when it comes to aim, or you start exploring cheats, macros, adapters, and strike packs. But I wasn't done yet. I was laying on the couch one day after a long bad session of Apex. My aim was off, I was switching sensitivities, my arm was tired, the caffeine was running low, and then it hit me. How do I get my mouse to act like it has aim assist? But that's impossible without cheating though, I thought, right? I sat down and started learning how aim assist works on controller. One of the most common types of aim assist is aim slowdown. This is when you put your crosshair over a target and the crosshair slows down, enabling you to hit the target a bit easier. So I thought to myself, you genius. I'll just lower my ADS in game by 40 or 50%, that way I can still turn around quickly, but when I aim down sights, I'll be able to easily hit what I'm aiming at. I tried this method and noticed some pro players played on 80% ADS instead of 100% with their hipfire sense. For example, if you play on 5 cents and your ADS multiplier is 1.0 or 1x, it means your ADS and hipfire are the same. I tried this for several weeks and had some success. I started to realize the power of low ADS speed. I was mainly using my arm to actually aim, and when I was walking around, I was using my wrist. This was perfect, I thought. I had the best of both worlds. Problem solved? Well, no. I was learning two different senses at the same time, and up close I could barely ADS without ripping my arm out of socket. Back to the drawing board. I had one goal. Have the freedom to effortlessly flick to targets, quickly turn around, and still have the precision of a low sensitivity. I was on the right track. I was getting close. But how do I accomplish this? One night I stumbled across a pro Counter-Strike player. He was streaming and one of his viewers asked him to turn on mouse accel in game just for fun. I had already explored this option, but I figured I'd watch just for the entertainment value. As he was playing, his teammate mentioned something that got my full attention. He mentioned that the Swedes back in the day had figured out mouse accel on Quake. This turned to further research and I found out that back then, Quake had a full menu of settings for accel and curves. Not only did it have a way of controlling how much acceleration you could have, you You could also change the curve entirely. Wow. Was there a way I could get this in other games? A few Google searches later, and I found the motherlode. Provo had its mouse accel driver. A fully working mouse accel driver that could be controlled, customizable curve, angle snapping, all options. I could set speeds, how much, how fast accel went. Remember those curves I was talking about earlier? Since I had learned how curves worked in games, I knew how to make one that I wanted instantly. Remember the muscle memory I was talking about? Since the driver came with set parameters, this means the settings would always stay the same. I was able to create a curve that had mouse accel, a low sense when aiming, and a very quick turnaround speed. I've been playing on these settings for about 2 years now, and have never looked back. If you have struggled with aiming and settings, I'd recommend trying this out. There's a lot of options you can change in the menu, and I find myself looking to change something when I'm having a bad day. Maybe that's why aiming is so hard. Maybe it's because we never just stick to one setting. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Why is aiming so hard?